Okay, so here we are on Bitcoin and we're on the daily time frame. And so there's a couple things that I want to show you guys after the development over the weekend. Throughout the weekend, or I think starting on last Friday and throughout the entire weekend, we've made a major push right back up above that major 236 support at around 62.3. So this has now flipped back to support, which is a really good sign. And so there's a couple things that is leading me to believe that this was just a liquidity grab at the end of this entire correction so that we can have enough volume to really push us out of this correction and onto that new trend. When we lost support here at this 236, we had mentioned to you guys that up until this point, Bitcoin has really formed all of the necessary waves that it needed to form to complete this entire correction. And so the fact that we pushed down past these levels with this really strong strength here, and then now we're right back up to the exact same levels, makes me believe that this was a coordinated event, and also how it reversed in the middle of these major waves. So it didn't even really hit anything major, no major supports or fibs right at this level, and it's now reversed back up and it's now above the MA. So I think that this was, like I said, just trying to get enough volume and shake people out before we start that new trend and make new highs above the 73.8 up here. So there's a couple of things that we're going to be looking for in the meantime just to confirm that this is a new trend. Again, we're looking at this 0.5 fib here that we always bring up because that 0.5 fib is critical for us to determine early on whether or not this is the new trend or not. You can see Bitcoin is having kind of a difficult time breaking above it. It's at 64.6. So this is something that we're going to be watching closely within the next couple days or so, is a break above this level here. Like I said, just to confirm that it's flipping bullish. And then also staying above this MA and above this 236 here at 62.3 will be another good sign that we are on that new trend. And then take a look at this RSI because it flipped above its MA. So it's now trending bullish. So again, these are all early indicators that we are starting the new trend. So let's just have Casi go in here and zoom in a little bit to give you a closer look at what we're expecting.
So here we are on the Bitcoin 1 hour, and this is our wave that's happened from that last low. And here's our larger 236 fib level that it's broken. And we did talk about if it came into this level that it would start to invalidate that last low. And you can see this is really how close. This was that fib that we were supposed to get to, and this is really the last low that I got to. So it is looking like 5 waves from that low. And then we are getting somewhat of a top at that part. Another thing I wanted to point out is this is that channel that it was in that last C wave, and it did break above that channel and flip to support. So it is still very early on from that bounce. We are still stuck in this correction levels. It would be much more confirmation if we can break past highs. But if this is maybe the start of our first wave, then we would be looking at eventually a wave 2 coming down, which would target a 618. So I have that marked here. Wave 1 has very little rules. So as wave 1 builds, you're going to want to pull your retrace levels. So you can see right now our 618 is landing perfectly at that one larger support we talked about, which is right at that 60,000 area. Or 59.8 that we talk about a lot. So that's a significant area. If this is the start of the new trend, then we would be looking to find a wave 2 down to those support levels soon. So if we do start to make a new high though, you are going to want to adjust this for whatever high it makes. We do have our next large resistance at 68,000. Wave 1 has very little rules for where it could break. So I just wanted to point that out, that just like we were measuring that wave 1 from our last bounce off the 236, we're going to be doing the exact same thing from the lows that came on Friday.
Yeah, and this time around, Cass, it's looking more as like a new trend. Whereas before, it was really hard to tell if it felt like it wasn't impulsive or corrective. This seems like it's more impulsive, like a 5-wave structure should be, or the start of a new trend. So It definitely is looking like it's trying to form more of a typical structure for that new trend off that bounce. So we know that up until now, all the necessary waves have formed. So it does, this newest wave doesn't really fit into the structure really at all. So let's just continue.
I mean, we are definitely getting a top with these highs all the way up to 4 hours.
And like I showed you, Cass, we're hitting that 0.5 resistance. So
it's getting pretty coiled up because we're hitting, we made a top, but we also came down and hit quick support. So we might not get that classic wave 2 or textbook wave 2 that we're looking to see. If this really is the start of a new trend, we should start to get really impulsive. We shouldn't be guessing anymore, right? That it's new
it should be breaking out of these levels very soon.
Yeah. Okay, maybe we should jump to Ethereum then.
All right, let's get to Ethereum. Okay, so here we are on Ethereum, and we're zoomed out to the daily time frame. And really, there isn't that much that has changed on Ethereum since our last update. We had showed you that it bounced right off of this 0.5 support level, and then also that 618 extension for this fifth wave that we've been expecting. And now we've come back up right to the MA, and it's on top of that MA as support, which is also right at that major 382 level. That is that typical target for this entire wave 4. So what we want to see on Ethereum is it building on top of this 382 level here at around 3115. If it can hold above this level, that's a really good sign that we are starting that new trend. And then also the RSI, like we said, is up above its MA, so this is trending bullish. Ethereum is really more in line with the subwaves that it should be forming during this correction. So I think it's going to be a lot easier for us to tell on Ethereum when we've started that new trend. So let's just have Casi zoom in here a little bit and give you a closer look at what's going on.
Okay, so here we are on Ethereum 1 hour zoomed in. This is that bounce that Tara talked about off those significant levels. It got really close to touching, and we debated for a while if that $10 move was really it or not. We really want to see from this low is really strong impulse. And you can see here, this last high that we made actually didn't create a top on the RSI for Ethereum. And it does look like we are hitting support now on Ethereum. So I would say Ethereum is definitely looking a little bit more bullish than Bitcoin at this point. What we still want to do, just like Bitcoin, is get our retrace levels. So you would just grab this fib retracement tool all the way down from our low there and then start to come up. So I'm also going to put in our more bullish ones because I do think it's possible because we're hitting support, and you can see it just hit that 236 retrace there. Like we mentioned on Bitcoin, there is very little rules that this wave 1 has, but we do want it to see it break past previous highs. And then we're going to be looking for a wave 2 to come down before a really massive wave 3 that should be very obvious. We're just going to be tracking this wave 1 from the low. We do have our next significant resistance at that 236, which is at 3,488. And then our support right now, just like Tara mentioned just now, is at 3,110 on my chart. I think hers is 3,115. So these are our large support levels. Breaking up towards that 3,400 area will really start to confirm that this is on a new trend. So it's really hard to get any confirmation of a new trend as it's still literally in the same prices as it's been, but it does look like we could be getting signs of a new trend. So we definitely need to get more confirmation breaking out of these levels. And like Tara mentioned, Ethereum did already come to its larger supports, but Bitcoin didn't. So there's a little bit of a difference here with Ethereum in that it could be a little bit more bullish looking than Bitcoin to me. And actually maybe a little bit more clear, like you're saying, maybe not more bullish, but more clear that it came to support.
Yep. And so because it did hit those official targets, I do think Ethereum will be more clear in that most people will be on the same side of the market for this new trend. Because, on Bitcoin, now Bitcoin doesn't have that bullish divergence. It didn't hit those targets. And so now the market could be divided on Bitcoin until we really break out. And on Ethereum, like you're mentioning, this retrace is really going to determine or be a clear signal for us on if we're starting that new trend. So we really don't know yet until we start to retrace if we're on that new trend or not. And so that's what we need to be tracking.
It's not really the retrace, I feel like that will tell. It's breaking out of these correction levels, breaking past previous highs. Our push should really send us out of new highs.
But I think at that point we'll already be on wave 3. So hopefully this retrace for wave 2 will support. Hopefully it'll hold, during this retrace. And then that'll be a really good indication for us that it's on that new trend.
Right now, we just have to keep these local retraces pulled and then just be watching the RSI closely zoomed in if that's what you want to do.
You mentioned we're not finding top, which means that there's no bearish divergence yet. There's no RSI divergence. So that's what Casi's tracking closely on these smaller timeframes is that divergence on the RSI. Whereas Bitcoin has
local support and resistances, and then your divergences on the RSI.
So it's interesting that Bitcoin has one, but Ethereum doesn't. So, and Bitcoin's right at that 0.5. So it's going to need a big break, I think, for Bitcoin to break above that strong, those top signals that it's showing. So,
yeah.
All right, should we get over to XRP then?
Okay, super good sign right now on XRP.
Oh yeah. Okay, so here we are on XRP on the daily time frame, and XRP has come right back up to the bottom of the triangle. You can see it broke out a little bit above it and hit that 618 as resistance at this 54 cents here. And now it's come down and it's testing the bottom of that triangle as support right now. So this is a very critical level for XRP to hold, because now that we've broken into the triangle, it really needs to hold it as support. Like I said, where it is right now is that 65 retrace, which is that golden level. So this is really a very key moment for XRP on this entire wave, because these are the typical targets for this entire retrace. Right here is at that 618 and the 65. So the fact that we're now right at those levels is a good sign that we're going to start building support here before that next major wave to really break us out of this triangle. And again, we have this forced decision, like Casi mentioned, and I keep saying that because it's so descriptive and it's exactly what is going to happen. Because if XRP travels all the way to the end of this apex here, it's going to have that forced decision. And I don't know, Cass, do you remember on Bitcoin when it was around 5,000 and we had this major triangle and it went all the way to the apex and literally flatlined for at least a week? So hopefully we don't get that. You're muted. I can't hear you.
It was the triangle like at 3,400 or something.
Yeah. Yep. And that was when we were also just learning how to trade. So it was a really interesting week for us. But yeah, we have seen it go all the way to the apex and then flatline for
not do anything.
And not do anything. So hopefully that doesn't happen here. But yeah, so really all of the waves, like we've mentioned, in this entire triangle have formed. So XRP can really break out at any moment. And then, like we said, once it travels all the way to the apex, that's when it's going to be a forced decision. And then I just want to point...
I don't think it's going to go all the way to the apex.
I don't think so either. Now, the RSI is now curving back up. So it's looking like it's starting to make a new high on the RSI. This is showing really good strength that we are about to break up at least to that top of the triangle at around 59 cents. So this is our next major resistance here. Hopefully we can break up above this resistance with strength and then come back down to test it as support again. So these are things that we're looking out for to signal to us that we're on a new trend on XRP. So let's just have Casi zoom in here and give you a closer look at what we're expecting.
Okay, you guys, I'm on the XRP 1 hour, and this is exactly what we've been saying needs to happen on XRP. So this is a really, really good sign, like Tara keeps talking about. We've been saying that XRP needs to break back into its triangle and start to build support right on the bottom of the triangle, because that will be the healthiest impulse for XRP. And it's best for it to test this break sooner rather than later. So you can see it's doing that right now. Just like Tara mentioned, we broke back up into this triangle and we just got our test of support. So what we're just looking for in these next few days, next few hours, is it to continue to build support on the bottom of this triangle and hold that, or we do have that larger resistance that it could come up to and test that as well, which at that point we would either see a flip of that resistance or we would see resistance like we're expecting. So right now that resistance is at 58 cents, 58.5, and we are just so close, you guys. This is doing exactly what it needs to do to break out of this triangle. So this is really good to see. Yeah, I think in the next few hours, it really depends on where we could come up to. We could start to just slowly build support on here, which would be really bullish still. Or this resistance could break, like Tara said, and we break out of the triangle and then test this as support on top of the triangle, which would be even more bullish, even more of a sign that we're headed to all-time highs very quickly. So yes. I do think that this is a really good sign, and that in the next few hours, that's what we're going to be looking for. So this could be a really exciting week for XRP.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, good call, Cass, on mentioning that we want the support test sooner rather than later, because if we move on without that, the market's going to be so indecisive. We want it
and
to
it's
be
going to
clear.
could have a huge correction later.
Yep. We want it to be clear on the new trend, already tested that support and ready to just make new highs. So yeah, good call on that we do need that support test right now. And that's what we're seeing. So that's
And then
good.
especially this one too, if we do break this resistance, it could send us really, really high at first. That it's not going to be a time to long. Anytime we break this with tons of strength, the time to long is when we come back down and test it as support. So don't try to chase the trend. If this really does break with a ton of impulsiveness, keep in mind that it will have to come down to test this break. So that could be quick though. It could come up, break it, and test as support really quickly. And we could be headed off really, really fast. So
Cass,
I think those are all the different scenarios to look for. Yeah.
Should we get the 1618 extension? Because it looks like XRP already formed wave 1 and 2 of the new trend. And so I think that wave 3 extension is next.
I already have it. Okay, so then we're looking at 75,000 or 76,000.
No,
would be our next target. 76 cents, 75 cents.
So these are the price targets that we're expecting for when it does break this triangle. So if it is on that new trend, these are the next targets for this next impulsive wave, which Cassie mentioned is at 75 cents, and then that extension is at 92 or 93 cents. So yeah. So that's what we're going to be expecting. Like Cassie said, if it does push out of the triangle and hits one of these targets, that's not the time to long. We need to wait for it to come down and retrace and possibly test the bottom before it starts to move back up again. So those are some things to watch out for as we head into this week on XRP, I think.
Yeah, hopefully this just continues to build support like we're seeing now.
Yeah, which is above which price, Cass? 53 cents?
Yeah.
Okay.
Continuing to hold that is just going to be a really bullish sign. So it could just continue to hold support for the next few days.
Yeah.